Thomas Edison. Of course, he had over 1,000 patents, but at the time, what good were they? I mean, you couldn't plug anything in because plugs didn't exist back then. Electricity and light were mostly useless to regular people until the world became wired. The first time Edison made a light bulb glow in his lab, it was just the beginning of a much bigger vision. Edison needed a standard home to demonstrate how power and light might be delivered to it, and he found one literally across the street. The Henry Ford Museum of American Innovation's head curator, Mark Ruther, showed me the boarding house that was part of Edison's research compound in Menlo Park, New Jersey. The Sarah Jordan Boarding House. How come this is here in Greenfield Village?
Well, it's not just because it's pretty. It's mostly because of Thomas Edison, but it's particularly because of that little apparatus on the side there.
The wiring there.
Indeed. This house, it was wired with electricity for lighting.
You see this on a lot of houses, a lot of old houses. This is the first house that had this done. It was wired.
Absolutely.
How did she get so lucky?
Well, she was lucky enough to be hosting all kinds of staff that were working for Edison as well. So she's really part of the story.
Got it. The boarding house was boarding Edison workers.
Indeed.
Sarah Jordan was a widow and a single mother, and the boarding house she ran for Edison was one of several buildings chosen for the very first public presentation of electric light. Stepping inside was like stepping back in time. Other than the light bulb, the things in this house that were needed to get that light bulb to light
were some switches, were wires, were cleats, hangers.
These exposed wires almost look like an art project.
Well, they do. They also look kind of dangerous. They're probably not as dangerous as you imagine. There was a very, very thin insulation on them originally, sort of cotton insulation, but still pretty bare compared to what we'd expect nowadays.
How big a deal was it when this house was electrified?
So on the public demonstration in late December '79, there were street lights, there were several other houses in the vicinity lit, and then there was the lab. It would have been almost like a fairyland kind of lighting show. It would have looked very, very spectacular. This is one of the most important parts of it, because it's one thing to think of lights, it's one thing to think of them in a laboratory, it's another thing to see them in a domestic setting.
Despite the smashing success of Edison's New Year's Eve presentation in 1879, it wasn't until the 1920s that homes were wired for electricity as they were built. Electrifying a home and buildings in general must have inspired and led to so many more inventions.
There were a lot of other people, as soon as systems started getting put into houses, realizing, like, you know what, well, like on a day like this, a fan would be rather nice. You could dry that off the system. Sewing machines, irons.
A toaster.
Toasters, indeed. A whole world of electrical appliances.
Once Edison figured out the distribution of electricity to homes and businesses, he also had to figure out a way to charge people for it. And dang it, he did. This is a meter.
It is a meter.
How was a bill calculated? Based on what?
Actually, based on weight. There was no mechanical meters at this point. So this is referred to as a chemical meter or an electrolytic meter. It has zinc plates. It has zinc sulfate solution. Some of the house current would be fed through it. Some of that zinc would be deposited on one of the other plates, and then those plates would be weighed.
So the more electricity you used, the larger the zinc deposit?
Exactly that. Like buying electricity by the pound, if you will.
I have to say, it's a lot prettier than the new meters.
Oh, it is, isn't it? It's got real character.
It's always a win when she gives words a spin. Allie Ward is next with Vocabulary.
Closed captioning provided by
Hershey's Miniatures. We pour them,
We pass them
we pick them. Delicious fun
for everyone.